Welcome back to math. This is section 14, triangles and rectangles. We're going to talk about triangles and their angles, triangles and their sides, congruent and similar triangles, the Pythagorean equation, rectangles and squares, perimeter, and area. Triangles have three sides. They also have three angles. An angle is a measurement, usually in degrees, between two lines that meet at a point called a vertex. So an acute angle is less than 90 degrees. These are the two lines. This would be the vertex, and this angle would measure less than 90 degrees. A right angle would be exactly 90 degrees, and it's usually indicated by this little square box in the center of it. And an obtuse angle is greater than 90 degrees. So when triangles are described based on their angles, they're called either acute triangles, right triangles, or obtuse triangles. So an acute triangle, a right triangle, and an obtuse triangle. In a triangle, the measure of all the angles added together adds up to 180 degrees. Triangles can also be described by the length of their sides. When all three sides of a triangle have the same length, the triangle is called equilateral. That might look like this. An isosceles triangle has two sides the same length and one side different. And a scalene triangle has no sides the same. When we label an equilateral triangle, we usually put these little lines through each side. It's kind of a shorthand that says that if they have the same number of hatch lines through it, those sides are the same length. So here in isosceles, we might label it like this, meaning that these two are the same, they have the same number of hatch lines, and this one's different. Here you might label it as like 1, 2, and 3. They're all different sides. When two triangles have sides that are the same length and angles that are the same measurement, they're called congruent triangles. Congruent triangles are exactly the same size in every aspect, although they might be drawn as a mirror image or rotated. These are similar triangles. They also have congruent angles, that is, that these angles are the same as these, but their sides are proportional rather than identical. And as we remember from proportions, if we know there's a proportion, we can use that ratio to solve for unknowns. So for example, we know that this side is 1 and the long is 5. We know this is 2, but we don't know that. But we can find it. Let's set up a proportion where we say the short side compared to the longest side. And we know in this triangle that's 1 to 5. And in this triangle, the short is 2 and the long is x. So with some cross multiplication, we can find that this side is 10. Now let's think about the Pythagorean equation. The Pythagorean equation only applies to right triangles. With this equation, we can find the length of any third side when we already know the length of 2. The equation is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where a and b are the shorter sides of the triangle, and c is the longest side. That's also called the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is also always the side that's opposite the right angle. So, if we know that side A is 3 and side B is 4, we can find side C. So that would be a squared, substituting 3 for a, we get 3 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. 3 squared, that means 3 times 3 is 9, plus 4 times 4 is 16, equals c squared. 9 plus 16 is 25. If we take the square root of both sides, that's like saying what number times itself is 25, and that would be 5. So we'd find out that side C is 5. This example uses one of the common Pythagorean triples. They're whole numbers that work in the Pythagorean relationship. It's useful to know these common patterns because they often appear in homework and test questions. The triples work in their proportions too, so 3, 4, 5, we could double all that and be 6, 8, 10. Another one of the triples would be sides 5, 12, and 13. A quadrilateral has 4 sides. Rectangles are special quadrilaterals, where the length of their opposite sides are equal and all of their angles are right angles. So here we have labeled that these opposite sides are equal and these are equal. This rectangle is called rectangle ABCD, named after its 4 points. So side A and D is the same as B and C, and A and B is the same length as D and C. A square is also a rectangle, but it's a special rectangle where all 4 sides are equal in length. All 4 angles in a rectangle, or in a square, are right angles, which equal 90 degrees. That means the total of the angles of a rectangle is 360 degrees, which is 90 degrees times 4. The total of all the angles in a triangle is 180 degrees. So that's half of the square or the rectangle. Remember that every triangle is half of some quadrilateral, and half of 360 is 180. Perimeter is the distance around the outside of a shape. We can measure the perimeter of a square, rectangle, triangle, or in fact any irregularly shaped object by adding together the length of its sides. So for example, the perimeter of this rectangle is 3 feet plus 6 feet plus 3 feet, remember the opposite sides are equal, plus 6 feet. So 3 plus 6 plus 3 plus 6 equals 18. Whenever a unit of measure is used, is in this case square, we should also keep that in our answer, 18 feet. The perimeter of this triangle can also be found in the same way by adding together the sides. 3 plus 1 plus 2 is 6, and we use the unit of measure, centimeters is the perimeter. Area is the total amount of space taken up inside a flat shape, or a two-dimensional shape. There are many practical uses for determining the area of a space. For example, you might need to know the square feet of your driveway in order to buy enough blacktop. The formula for the area of a rectangle is the length times its width. That's also sometimes called the base times its height. It's really the same thing. We can say that this is its length and its width, or we can call this the base and its height. Both sets of names refer to the same measurements. So this figure is a square with sides that are 5 feet. We know that all the sides in a square are equal, so this is also 5 feet. If we're looking for area, length times width is 5 times 5, which is 25, and we say square feet, or sometimes we abbreviate that square feet. The formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 times the base times the height. Remember that all triangles are half of some rectangle, and that makes perfect sense. But notice that the height might be either inside the triangle, or it could be outside the triangle, depending on the shape of the triangle. Either way, Both of these triangles have a base of 7 feet and a height of 3 feet. So they have an area of 10 and a half, we say, square feet.